Hey guys, it's Jeremy with Career Lab, the channel that helps you on your journey to find work you love. Today we're talking to David Markovik about how he grew a huge network within his industry by building online and offline communities. David is an online marketer and he's most known for building a huge community called Online Geniuses, which has over 12,000 active members. And he's pretty much one of the most connected guys in the marketing space. So if you too want to learn how you can grow a huge network by building communities, make sure to watch the whole video. If you like this content, like and subscribe. And now let's get started with the interview. David, welcome to the show, and thanks for your time today. I want to start by asking you about how all this community building stuff started. I know you started going to meetups in the beginning, and then you started organizing your own meetups, or actually I think for a company, right? Can you tell us more about how it started and kind of how it evolved into the huge online genius community that exists today?
Sure. So you're right. Like I've attended before ever creating events, I attended them. And what's interesting about that is when you first start attending really large events or conferences and joining communities, you think it's a lot more complicated than it is. And what I realized is, there was space. You can niche down. So if you, let's say you want to do an event or community for artists, you could say artists in New York, and you could say woman artist of New York. Like there's always room, and the more niche, the more quality the community gets and the event series gets. So that's what I did. I ended up building events. I know that you said you're graduating, so I actually had a community for people looking for internships. At the peak, we had like 15, 16,000 people. And I just realized it wasn't around and it didn't exist. And a lot of people would message me for internships, and a lot of companies would message me looking to hire interns. And I'm like, oh, why don't I just match them together? So that's an example. And I worked for a few companies that I started events for them and then ended up starting my own because I lost the events once I left the company. And from there, you know, learned about community building. I was always passionate about digital marketing, so I threw a bunch of people I knew in a Skype group, and it grew pretty fast. And then, it is what it is now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And and I want to know how have all these communities you've built, how have they improved your personal and work life directly? Can you give us a couple examples of the people you've met and how it's improved your life?
So right now, I could probably travel to any major city in the world and have people that I can hang out with, and that right there is priceless because I travel a lot. And when I show up, I'm like, oh, hey, online geniuses, we have this thing in common. And that's all you need to make a connection. You just need this really small thing in common. And from there, you could build or see potentially build a relationship. I've met some of my closest friends in Online Geniuses. I've done a tremendous amount of business on there. I came up with a lot of different ideas. There's people that I'm friends with and I'm like close with that I've never met in my life. That like if they called me and say, "Hey, could I borrow money or could I do this or could you help me with?" I would help. Like I feel super close to people I've never met in
Yeah.
person. I've actually founded a business with someone I've never met, and it went fairly well. So yeah, the power of connection, whether it's in person or not, works.
Yeah.
If they're genuine, transparent, and you're both have parallel goals, yeah, it could potentially be a really good relationship.
And as far as successful people in your industry, I know that I mean, through your meetups, you've had a lot of guest speakers that you've invited, and you also have this weekly AMAs on the Slack channel. Um, are there a lot of like successful people in your industry that you've kind of been able to keep in touch with, and are these connections that you build and you're able to maintain over time?
Yeah. So actually, a lot of the most successful people that I built relationships with are people that nobody else knows about. Like just certain people just grinding, doing things like you probably don't know the largest windshield wiper manufacturer, right? But
Yeah.
whoever that is probably doing really well.
Yeah.
So the same thing works in digital. there's like certain aspects of people just really doing well, extremely well. And they like the quote says, the strong move in silence. So some of those people I got to build relationships with, and they kind of work in the shadows. So I have the opportunity to build relationships with a lot of those, and they're doing extremely interesting things in very unique places around the world. And yeah, and other people, working for, companies that I admire. When I see, when I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see an Instagram, when I see an IG ad of a really large company or a startup doing something cool, I'm like, oh, I know who made that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So stuff like that, that's interesting.
that's really interesting. Would you say it's a good way to, like, if you're starting out in an industry, would you say it's a good way to find mentors?
Is create a community.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have to look at it this way. When you attend the wedding, you don't get to meet everyone at the wedding.
Hmm.
But if it's your wedding, everyone says hello to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Good point.
So in that case, you go from peasant to king.
So let's say I want to build a community, and let's say you mentioned artists before. So let's say I'm a struggling artist. I'm just graduating college, and I really want to make it in the art industry and understand the importance of networking and knowing all the different galleries and stuff, and the basically the people that pull the strings, right? And so I want to meet all those people. Through building a community. What are the tips you would have for me for starting out?
So the first thing you understand is that everyone wants community. Like, because that helped us evolve, right? As humans, that's why we survived, and a lot of other species similar to us didn't,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
always kind of hung out together, and that's how we thrive. That's not saying for everyone. There's a word called introvert, and there's extreme introverts. Um, but so everyone wants to. They just, nobody wants to waste their time, and nobody wants to, be bothered. So if you could solve that problem, I'll give you an example of a community I'm thinking about building, and you could think of an example. I mean, you could kind of relate this to what you want to do. So I live in a building. There's probably around like 1,400 people living in my building, and I thought it would be really good and really useful if we all kind of were in one place online, because our building doesn't provide that. So what I was thinking about doing, I was like, okay, let's figure out what's the platform. Like, how would everyone like to communicate? The second thing is how much time, like, am I going to have to dedicate to this, and what are the risks involved? And then the third is how am I going to get everyone on this platform?
hmm
So the first is, okay, what's the platform? I mean, Facebook might be good, but then, some people might not want to show their face, and they might get, this person looks nice, I'm going to message them, and it might get a little bit invasive. WhatsApp or Telegram might be better, but now everyone potentially has your cell phone number. So like just trying to figure out what the best platform is. So then I'm like, the reason why I haven't created the community in my building is like, hey, how much time and what's the risk involved, right? So it might be a lot of time, because if you create this community and if there's like an argument in the building, people are going to turn to you. Or if there's a lot of moderation, or stuff like that. So you have to like measure out the time. The second thing is, if it's going to, are people going to use it? So is it going to be a waste? And then also, how are you going to get the people? So there, right now, the reason it's going to be really hard to get these people, because everyone has different schedules, and there's never a time where everyone in the building is in one place.
hmm
So what about, I was thinking about really doing a manual, getting a few friends and going to every door and putting it underneath, a letter underneath their door, and saying, hey, why don't you join our community? And I guarantee you this, that if somebody put a note underneath my door and says, hey, we have a community for everyone in this building, and also if you log in, we have like 10% off the pizza shop across the street.
hmm
So you could go to stores nearby and say, hey, we have a huge building, one of the largest buildings in Midtown. Would you like to offer discounts to everyone in our building? Just give me free food and I'll post it in my community, or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Here, do my dry cleaning for free and I'll do it.
And so
Um,
it seems like you're saying that you would start something online first, and then maybe do physical events after you have an online community, because it will be easier to build the online community and then
Yeah,
use that to promote the in-person
yeah,
events?
yeah. So when you're building, I mean, it could work either way. Yeah, it matters which one you're more passionate about.
We've talked a lot about kind of like the selfish reasons you would want to start a community, but from my understanding, building a community is mostly actually about giving, and a lot of people really want to make an impact in the world, and they don't really know how. And it seems like building a community is a great way of making an impact, especially within your industry. Can you share a couple examples of how Online Geniuses or the other communities you've started have really impacted the members' lives?
Yeah, so it's all about giving. If you create a community for taking, you'll never succeed. So people have gotten jobs. Um, People and online geniuses have met and started companies together. There's times where someone's like, "Hey, I'm stranded. Does anyone have money?" And people help them out. People partner, companies partner. A lot of information is shared that probably helps you during your job. There's a lot of giving and there's a lot of taking, and you can see in the personalities who the givers are in the community and who the takers are. And I'm naturally closer to the givers.
Yeah,
But there's an interesting book you should read by Adam Grant called Give and Take.
yeah, I've heard of it.
You should read it. It's kind of, if you're very interested in this topic, it's very similar, um, and and you can learn a lot. I recommend you reading it.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Okay.
David, where can people find you online and find out more about your communities online?
Check out onlinegeniuses.com.
Cool. And I think you
And
also have a community about building communities, right?
I have a few communities. I also have a community from mental health. If you suffer from depression, anxiety, schizophrenic, bipolar, it's in memory of people I know that passed away.
Where's that
And
called?
it's called 18%.org.
Okay,
And we're actually partnered with the crisis text line. So when you text them, like, hey, I am not feeling well, they'll send you to 18%.
great.
So we're really, really growing fast. And I run a community of people who run communities called modtalk.co. If you run a community, join. And thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate what you're doing.
All right. Thanks so much, David. And for those of you guys watching, again, go out there, have fun, and build amazing communities that add a lot of value to your industry. I hope you learned a thing or two, and if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe to get more of this type of content in the future. And my question to you today is, what type of community are you planning on building in your own life? Let me know in the comments.